Shiva Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Reading from the Nectar of Devotion. Hari Bol. Another passage which is very important is in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. So this section is devotional service, surpasses all liberation. Liberation surpasses all sense gratification, and then devotional service surpasses all liberation. So compared to devotional service, sense gratification doesn't even register. That's actual devotional service. First Canto 7, chapter verse 10 is called the Atmarama verse. In the Atmarama verse, it is stated that even those who are completely liberated from material contamination are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna. And then there's a little footnote. This Atmarama verse was once explained by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. There is a detailed explanation of this verse in the author's teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And also Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya explained the Atmarama verse 18 different ways. The purport of this verse is that a liberated soul has absolutely no desire at all for material enjoyment. He is wholly freed from all kinds of material desires, yet still he is irresistibly attracted by the desire to hear and understand the pastimes of the Lord. We may therefore conclude that the glories and pastimes of the Lord are not material. Otherwise, how could the liberated persons known as Atmaramas be attracted by such pastimes? That is the important point in this verse. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 7, what Prahlad learned in the womb. It's funny, isn't it, how it coincides quite often, what's going on in our lives and what's going on around. So we've got Lord Nrsimhadev's actual appearance day on Wednesday. And here we are in the Bhagavatam. And it's text 44. Kim Vayavahita Pacha. Kim Uvayavahita Pacha. Daragara. Daragara. Danadaya. Daragara. Danadaya. Raja Kosha Gajamacha. Raja Kosha Gajamacha. Richyapta Mamatspada. Richyapta Mamatsapada. Kim Uvayavahitat Pacha. Dadagara Danadaya. Rajakosha Gajamacha. Brithyapta Mamatsapada. Kim Uvayavahitat Pacha. Dadagara Danadaya. Raja Kosha Gajamacha. Richapta Mamatpada. Kimuya hipata pacha. Kim, who, what to speak of? Yavita, separated. Apacha, children. Dara, wives. Agara, residences. Dana, wealth. Ajaya, and so on. Raja, kingdoms. Kosha, treasuries. Gaja, big elephants and horses. Amacha, ministers. Richa, servants. Apta, relatives. Mamapsapada, false seeds are abodes of intimate relationship, mindness. Oh, there's no, okay. I'll just read this and then read the next one. Since the body itself is ultimately meant to become stool or earth, what is the meaning of the paraphernalia related to the body, such as wives, residences, wealth, children, relatives, servants, friends, kingdoms, treasuries, animals, and ministers? They are also temporary. What more can be said about this? I'll read the next one. Kimacha apanastu chai sahadehananasvarai anate atasankashaya Nityananda Rasodaye. Nityananda, that's interesting, eh? Nityananda, of eternal happiness. Translation. All this paraphernalia is very near and dear as long as the body exists, but as soon as the body is destroyed, all things related to the body are also finished. Therefore, actually one has nothing to do with them. But because of ignorance, one accepts them as valuable. Compared to the ocean of eternal happiness, they are most insignificant. Where is the use of such insignificant relationships for the eternal living being? Krishna consciousness, devotional service to Krishna, is the ocean of eternal bliss. In comparison to this eternal ocean, the so-called happiness of society, friendship, and love is simply useless and insignificant. One should therefore not be attached to temporary things. One should take to Krishna consciousness and become eternally happy. Om Jnana Timirandasya Vinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Any questions? So it says since the body is ultimately meant to become stool, so when I was just a wee Bhakta Danavir, at that time Prabhu, now Maharaj, was telling me in the bathroom, I think actually. He said, "Do you think that carrot is you?" Or say somebody's just about to eat a plate of food, and you said to the person who's eating the food, "Do you think that plate of food is you?" Obviously, they'd say no. And then he said, and then if you took them later on to the bathroom and showed them their stool and said, "Do you think that is you?" And they would say, hopefully, no. But somewhere in between the food on the plate and the stool in the bathroom, we think that that's us. Interesting, yeah? We identify with at least part of the process as ourselves. So intelligence is analyzing things. And real intelligence is being able to distinguish illusion from reality, which we don't have a course in, do we? You know, if you get a PhD, this is the doctor of discriminating between illusion and reality. There's no PhD for that. There's only PhDs for becoming expert at identifying with stool. Expert at becoming illusioned. So the more engrossed and ensnared you become by the illusion, then the more you're given credibility, credit. But then you're only given credit by animals, jackals, dogs, camels, asses. They crowd round and they applaud you, at least for some time. So since the body is meant to become stool, what is the meaning of paraphernalia related to the body? Animals, treasuries, all this paraphernalia, which is very dear as long as the body exists, are no longer of any. They're only near and dear as long as the body exists. Therefore, actually, one has nothing to do with them. So where is the use of such insignificant relationships? So once the eternal living entity is awakened, then everything naturally falls into place. So our real problem isn't the problem itself. Our real problem is that we're not awakened. That's our real problem. Just like if a man's in a dream and he has a problem with a tiger, tiger's trying to eat him, then the tiger problem is solved as soon as he wakes up, as soon as he becomes awakened. So Krishna consciousness is an ocean. Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness and devotional service to Krishna. So they consider the same thing. Being Krishna conscious is the same as devotional service. And Krishna says also, doesn't he, in the Bhagavad Gita, the wise who perfectly know this and worship me with all their hearts. So the actual conclusion of someone that's Krishna conscious is that he has a very, very deep, heartfelt desire to want to serve Krishna. He wants to serve Krishna with all his heart. That is the natural conclusion. So when we say Krishna consciousness, we don't mean like Kamsa, who is thinking of Krishna all the time. It actually means in devotional service, to be in this ocean of eternal bliss. An ocean of eternal bliss must also be unlimited. If the bliss is eternal, then it must also be unlimited. No beginning and no end. Very hard to understand that, isn't it? No beginning and no end. That the moment that we're occupying now is the same moment we were born in, and will be the same moment that we die in. And it will only appear that there is a passage of time because we are identifying things that are going past. Just like the moon looks like it's moving when the clouds go past it. And then when you look, you say, oh, actually the moon's still, but the clouds are going past. But it looks like the moon is traveling through the clouds. So the moon is stationary. Similarly, we are stationary. We only exist in now. There is only now. It's the eternal present. And anything other than eternal now, all these past and future considerations are all illusory. Isn't that amazing? We're just in the same now. This is the same now that we're going to die in. When we die, it'll be now. And when we were born, it was now. How to understand it? How events can take place? Because when we have an event take place, somebody comes up and says, "Hello, Mr. Jones, I brought you a bag of coal." And then he goes away and you have the bag of coal. We're in the spiritual world. There's no coming and going. Everything is just existing now. Everything's going on now. And it's eternal. It's an eternal now. And it has no beginning and it has no end. So then there's no question of where did I come from? Like here we're thinking, well, what happened? Was there a big bang? Where did we all come from? They're not asking that question in the spiritual world because they're just always here, always were, and always will be. Which would be quite a relief, wouldn't it, to be in that state of consciousness, that we're just always here. There's never a time when that didn't exist, nor in the future will that cease to be. That's reassuring, isn't it? Because we live in a very temporary situation and everything is under constant threat. I read a book once about depression, and what causes depression is not being able to plan, having no routine, not knowing from one day. They have these jobs, 0 hours. So you never know till the next day when the phone rings whether you've got work that day, which means you're not sure if you're going to be able to pay your mortgage, your hire purchase on your car, provide food for the family. You just live day by day. So that causes depression, as you can imagine. Whereas the eternal present, there's no threat of anything. There's no cessation. Everything endures. So here we're trying to live here like we're in the spiritual world. We're trying to make the body last, rub cream in it, stretch it, tie a knot in the skin at the top of the head so everything looks younger. Take this vitamin, watch out for this. In so many ways, we're making such a huge endeavor to try and establish an eternal situation in a temporary atmosphere. So it's such a conflict. It's like being a little drop of oil in a cup of water, and you want to mix the oil with the water. So you're constantly spinning the water around. But of course, when the water settles, the oil reforms and floats to the surface of the water, and the whole thing was a waste of time. But people are trying very, very hard. So Krishna consciousness is an ocean of eternal bliss. So we are aspiring to be Krishna conscious, and you'll know when you're Krishna conscious because you'll be in an ocean of eternal bliss. But even if you're not in an ocean of eternal bliss, you can go over to somebody that is in an ocean of eternal bliss. Take initiation from him. Even more important than taking initiation from him, take shiksha from him. And he'll say, "Come in. The water's fine." "Oh, I don't know. It looks a bit nippy." No, it's absolutely fine. Just come in. Just dive in. "Oh, I don't know if I want to dive in. I mean, I don't mind doing it for 5 or 10 minutes, but I don't think I want to dive in anywhere." No, come on. Water's fine. You'll love it. So Srila Prabhupada, he came and told us the water is fine. He told us there is an ocean of eternal bliss. And he invited us to experience it for ourselves. So there's two things with spirituality. There's believe and there's perceive. So believe precedes perceive. And to perceive, we have to receive. Believe, perceive, and receive. That's why Pratyaksagamam Dhamya, it's considered the perfection of religion because it gives us perception. Perception is more important than belief. We can believe things, and that's nice. It's good to believe that Australia exists. But if you get on the plane and perceive that Australia exists, That is more powerful than believing Australia exists. So we believe Krishna is God. We believe there is an ocean of eternal happiness. We believe that we're Krishna's parts and parcels. Now, can we perceive it? If we don't perceive it, then just believing it isn't enough, unfortunately. Not enough. Believe this and hope for the best. That's generally what religion is these days. But no, that's just the beginning. Believe this, put it into practice, and experience it for yourself. And when you've experienced it for yourself, share it with as many people as you can. Otherwise, if you don't share it, what happens? It stagnates. If you have the most sweet tasting water and you keep it in a pot, and you don't want to give it to anybody else, you want to keep it all for yourself, then the water stagnates. That's why we have to go out and give Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we just become selfish. And we have our spiritual comfort zone. But there's so many things that we're doing now that when we first came to Krishna consciousness, it wouldn't have seemed comfortable. But now that's become comfortable. So we have to just keep pushing the bar a little bit higher every time. If you go up to somebody and say, could you jump over this bar? It's 14 feet high. Then the person will say, there's no way I can do that. And say, well, could you jump over this bar? It's only 14 inches high. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, well, tomorrow it'll be 15 inches. Okay, I can handle that. Tomorrow it'll be 16. Day after, it'll be 17. Day after, it'll be 18. Day after, it'll be... And then over a period of a few months, eventually, you'll be able to jump 14 feet. You may need one of those poles. So Krishna consciousness is, how can I take the bar up 1 more inch from what it was the day before? Just steadily, steadily, steadily. And then what was comfortable for us, say a year ago, we're not comfortable with that anymore, because we're practicing to a better level now of Krishna consciousness. So why would we want to downgrade once we've achieved it? But that also can happen. You can regress. You can slacken. You can take your vows and take Diksha and become committed. And then over a period of time, you can slacken. You can slacken your vows. That's the problem with being a Kama Mishra Bhakta, is that it's mixed, or Jnana Mishra Bhakta. And so because it's mixed, if you're a Kama Mishra Bhakta, then when you get your material facilities, then you'll slacken in practicing Krishna consciousness. And if you're Jnana Mishra Bhakta, then when you feel liberated and free from any cares or worries, then you slacken off in your Krishna consciousness again. So our Krishna consciousness has to be based more upon just the fact that we've taken up spiritual life because we're in distress. Because if you lose the distress, then you lose your reason for taking up Krishna consciousness. When you're feeling comfortable and peaceful and you've got no worries, do you still want to practice Krishna consciousness? If you do, then you're becoming free from Jnana Mishra Bhakta. You want to do it anyway. In fact, you don't mind taking on some anxiety. It would be more peaceful. Now you can chant nicely. Now you can sing nicely. Now you know some slokas. Now you know how to put your dhoti on nicely. Everything's great. So let me just enjoy my Krishna consciousness. But now you have to take disciples. Now you have to take on more responsibility, more anxiety, become accountable for others. Why would you want to do that? If you were a Jnana Mishra Bhakti, you wouldn't want to do that. But if you're a Bhakti, then because of the compassion, you don't want to see other people suffer. And you're prepared to sacrifice your own peace of mind and your own comfort for the sake of others. That's a very foreign concept in material life. Doesn't make sense. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to put yourself in harm's way for other people? And the other people may not even appreciate it. They may not even... When I was a wee little lad, I remember I was on the fence at the back of my house in Ellswick in Skelmersdale, and I'd just stolen some bread. And I was eating, biscuits actually. I'd stolen some biscuits, and I was eating the biscuits, making sure that my parents couldn't see me. And I was thinking, if my parents knew how much I don't love them, they'd be shocked. And I was thinking, I definitely don't want to have kids. If I have a kid like me, why would I want to have a kid like me that doesn't like his parents at all? Couldn't care less if they drop dead tomorrow. So I was about 11 at the time, and I was thinking, okay, so I can't guarantee that my kid's going to be any better than me, and I'm like this, so I definitely don't want to have kids. And it wasn't until I'd been a devotee for maybe 5 years, 10 years, when I was around 25, 30, I suddenly realized how wonderful my parents had been, how much they'd sacrificed and looked after me. So then I was thinking also, okay, when I got married, I was thinking, if we're going to have kids, I'm going to have to wait 25 years before I get some payback, because it takes that long generally for people to be mature enough to consider other people. So in spiritual life, we want to give up this selfishness and become concerned with other people. That if we see other people suffering, then how can we be happy? And that fits in with Krishna. He's all-knowing. How can he be happy, completely happy, knowing that some of his parts and parcels are here? Which is a real blasphemy of God to say that, okay, look, if you don't make it, then you go to hell forever. God is all-knowing. So if the majority of people he's creating end up writhing in the lake of fire forever, why would God want to do that in the first place? Why would he create something? Everything is perfect and complete, so everybody must be complete and perfect. We're part and parcel of God. Why would he create something that would remain in an eternal situation of incompleteness and imperfection? That is blasphemy, actually. That would make you, that wouldn't resonate with your heart. And you think, okay, well, if that's what God is, then I don't believe in that, because that doesn't make sense. That God would do that God would create living entities, millions and millions of living entities that aren't going to go back to him. They're just going to stay forever in the lake of eternal fire and writhe in agony forever and ever and ever with no hope. But we're just going to have a great time. We're going on a picnic right now. We'll have a game of football. And, but Lord, I can hear people crying. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's the material world. They blew it. They had their chance. Let's go and have some fun. How does that make any sense? Radha Krishna, especially Radharani. Radharani is Krishna's compassion. And they say Radharani has one eye looking at Krishna and one eye looking at the living entities. She wants to bring them back. That's why Lord Chaitanya's mood is, let's save them. He's in the mood of Radharani, pure love and compassion. So he wants to bring everybody back. Prema Jali. He weaves a living network that nobody can escape. That's the Sankirtan movement. Any questions or comments? Yes, Dr. Jacob. Well, see what you think of this. See if this fits in, okay? The devotees were with Srila Prabhupada, and they were walking through this beautiful park, and one of the devotees said to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is it as beautiful as this in the kingdom of God? And Srila Prabhupada said, this is the kingdom of God. So we have a mirrored reflection in the material world of where it's like in the spiritual world. And that's why it's so difficult, because it looks like it's going to last forever. You know, you fall in love with somebody and they're beautiful and you have a loving relationship. And then day by day, you're decomposing before each other's eyes. That's what's so sad. It's just a replication. So it's giving us an indication of what the kingdom of God is like. And kind of intuitively, you know, when you're there looking at the beautiful blue sky and the puffy white clouds, and you're stretched out on your back on the grass, and you're looking at all that, you're getting a glimpse of what it's like. This is just to give you a glimpse, to remind you, this is what you've left behind. Come on, come back. Get back to where you once belonged. Jiva was a soul who thought he was a body. Get back to where you want. So that's what we want. We want to get back. We've been walking away from Krishna for a long time, and now we're doing a U-turn. Oh my God, that's actually where I need to be, you know? Like sometimes if you take the wrong road on the sat nav, and then suddenly you don't realize you've taken the wrong road at first, and then suddenly it comes up on the sat nav that you've got to go all the way up there and then all the way right back down there again. And then you realize, whoops, must have took a wrong turn. So that's what happened to us. Uh-oh, have to do a U-turn. I've been going away from where I'm trying to get to. I've got mixed up what the destination is. I'm getting further away from where I'm supposed to be going. Shishi, encoding the time. Shashi ki jai. Shri Tulsinath Maharaj ki jai. Shri Giri Hari Lal ki jai. Shri Nrsingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Mati Brinda Devi ki jai. Shri Shalagam Shilas ki jai. Shri Mahavishnu Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Gurudeva ki jai. Any other questions or comments? Yes. Amrita Gopal Prabhu. Yeah. Kiana Misha. Yeah. Yeah, there's karma and there's jnana. Anyabhilasita sunyam jnana kamanya anvitam. So pure devotional service is free of jnana and it's free of karma. And unfortunately, they are there. Although at first we may not realize it, we may think, I'm not a jnani, I'm not a karmi, I'm a bhakta, I'm a devotee. But as we go along, we start realizing, oh, I didn't realize that this is what happens if you're that, you know. So if you're a karma bhakta, then you really want facility. It's like a big thing for you. You know, you have to have facilities. Everything has to be. People have to smile at you. You have to have a nice clothing and a nice situation. It has to be warm, and you know. You'll go to this Sankirtan spot because the people are friendly here, but we don't go to that one because they've all got scars and scabs on their face. It's so many prerequisites are there, you know. You don't realize that until you start practicing, and then you realize, oh, I'm upset about this. Why am I'm upset? And then jnana, to have a carefree life, to just float around in the Brahman with no problem at all. Even better than, because in the heavenly planets, you're always worried that eventually you're going to die and maybe somebody will try and usurp your position and it's temporary. So it's not ideal. Yeah, just take less, Prabhu. Just take less. Come back for it. Be easier. That's it. Yeah. Achihara. You know Achihara? Achihara is to over endeavor. So it's there, unfortunately, it is there. It's just it will be there, and along the way, when it comes up, we should not be too upset about the fact that we would like to lead a carefree life and that we don't want to take on anxiety and have our comfort zone infringed upon, especially by others, you know. That will be there. And then as we mature and we become stronger in our Krishna consciousness, then we become more determined to get free from these things because we realize what they actually are, you know. Due to illusion, they appear to be something that they're not. Maya, not this. That's what it is, Maya. It's not this. It looks like this, but it's not this, actually. You think you're doing yourself a favor by trying to become carefree and trying to have nice facility, but all you're doing is slowing down the process of ultimately getting free from everything and anything, you know. It's a tricky path. It's a crooked path, actually. Rupa Goswami says the path is bending, winding, and it's covered in sandalwood and kumkum, so it's very slippery. Trying to get back. It's a slippery, and it's a bumpy one as well. It's a bumpy road. As you go on, the rocks get smaller. When you first start, the rocks are very big. very bumpy. And then as you go on through anatta nivritti, the unwanted things become cleansed. And then when 75% of the unwanted things are removed from the heart, all the jnana and the karma, maybe a little bit of jnana left, then you become nishta. And nishta bhakta, he's majjhima, he doesn't fall, and he's very intense about preaching because he sees clearly, this guy's a devotee. You know, he can be on the street doing books and he'll see a devotee coming up over the horizon 12 miles away and he'll just push past everybody, excuse me. And the person will say, Bhagavad Gita, I've been looking for a Bhagavad Gita. So Majjhima Adhikari, he likes preaching because there is nothing in this cosmic manifestation that is nicer and more relishable than associating with devotees. Dadati pratiginiti. It's the highest pleasure, and Sankirtan is giving you a chance to find the devotee and associate with them, engage in a living exchange. That is the topmost, you know, of all the things you can do in Krishna consciousness. Finding devotees and engaging them is like, wow, you know, I just met this guy. He was so good. He was so, you know, we're so enlivened by that, you know. And he took all the books. He's going to start chanting. Well, wow, I met a devotee. I found the devotee and connected him to Krishna. That is like, so that's Majjhima, Nishta. And because of the caliber of devotional service he's rendering, he very quickly achieves Ruchi. And when Ruchi comes, then Ruchi means you're experiencing taste now. So what was like poison has now become like nectar. You can't stop chanting, you can't stop serving, you can't stop worshipping the deities. You couldn't even stop, even if somebody was to get a machine gun and say, stop doing that. No, so I can't, you know, you at the stage of Ruchi, you can't stop. There's one story of Ganga Mata. She was in the class and she was chanting. And this devotee was giving Bhagavatam class and he told her to stop chanting, you know. And he got angry and he was offended, but he got a reaction because she was so elevated. She couldn't stop it. Her tongue, she was saying, oh, please just keep doing, give me the, I can't stop this tongue. It's just all the time vibrating the holy name. And he's like, and so he got really angry with her, you know, but he got a reaction for that. So that's Ruchi. You have to hold your tongue to stop it. Tunde tandavani ratim vitunati tundavali labdaye kana kroda kadambani gatayate. Bude Vyas Priyam. I'm just learning this verse. How much nectar as the two syllables Krishna produced? When it dances on the tongue, one desires many, many mouths. And when it enters the holes of the ear, Kana Kroda, then one desires millions of ears. And when it dances in the courtyard of the heart, Chaita Sangani, the courtyard of the heart, it's there somewhere. When it dances in the courtyard of the heart, then all the senses become inert and the mind becomes completely conquered. So that's Ruchi, and then Asakti is your attached, and then Bhava. And then you just have to wait, because Krishna only gives prema when he wants to, even if you're a Bhava Bhakta. Then you have to just wait for the mercy. So we shouldn't be too alarmed when we're making ghee. You know, if somebody came running out the kitchen and said, I was making ghee and this big brown lump came up on her. It was just too much. I couldn't take it. It was a big brown lump. Nobody told me. I got such a fright. I turned the heat off and I'll never try and make ghee again. Well, that's part of the process. You know, then you know it's working. You're supposed to see these big brown lumps coming up. That's how we get the ghee. We get rid of the impurities. If it's just butter, you don't even know there's any impurities in there. You know, butter's fine. You put it on your sandwich. Everything's cool. No problem. I'm okay with butter. But we don't want butter. We want ghee. And getting ghee means getting free from these impurities that are mixed in with the butter. So part of the process. So at least if you're forewarned, you're forearmed. You know, someone says, "Ooh, we're making some ghee now." So along the way, you will see these big lumps coming up. So you're ready for it, you know. I'm going to see karma coming up. I'm going to see jhana coming up. And then the challenge is it unwanted? Because they're not in the vritti. We can only cease from something if we're convinced we don't want it. And not in the vritti. And the problem is, sometimes we see the brown lumps coming up, and we think, oh, actually, they're quite nice. I quite like these brown lumps. I think I'll have them on a sandwich later. I'm just going to collect them. So then they're not unwanted. So we have to become sambandha, abhidheya, and prayojana. So the first part of the process is sambandha. You have to collect all the knowledge, and then abhidheya, then you start to implement it and put it into practice. And then prayojana can come after that. Prema, prayojana. You achieve the goal of prema, pure love. Any other questions or comments? Prema, prayojana. Nice name, right? Prema, prayojana. To achieve prema. That's what we want, pure love. We want to achieve pure love. What does it feel like to be a prema bhakti? And even though when we're chanting, we may be chanting and thinking, oh, I've not got any taste. I just can't get into this. Oh, me, woe is me. Oh, woe is me. What we can do instead is when we're chanting is we can chant and we can imagine, what would it be like if I had a taste for the pure holy name? If Shuddhanam was on my tongue right now, what would that be like? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's the sadhya. Don't lose sight of the sadhya, especially when you're chanting. You really want to focus on the sadhya. What is the goal of this? Not where I am right now. If you're focused on where you are right now, that's when you see obstacles. Obstacles are things you see when you lose sight of the goal. Just be focused on the goal. And then you lose sight of the obstacles, and you'll see the goal is getting closer. And when you start seeing that the goal is getting closer, then you become very, very enthusiastic, very enlivened. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, it's the initial stages to accumulate the sambandha. Abhidheya is to put it into practice. Yeah, implementation. And then prajna is the goal. The goal is the end target, the sadhya, the perfection. The siddhi is to achieve your swarup, to realize what your swarup is. Swarup siddhi, who you really are, what you're really supposed to be doing, your name, your dress, vesha, and your seva. What is your service? Everyone has some service. Isn't that amazing? Just like if you didn't know how to chop vegetables, and you were trying to work out, like some devotees may not, and you have that little scraper thing and the knife, and you're wondering, which one do I use? How do I know how to do this? So the sambandha is you collect all the tools, and then the challenge is abhidheya. Can you work out how to use them? You've been given the holy name. Can you work out how to chant, how to do it properly, how to chant properly? It's not just making a noise with a bag on your hand for 2 hours, chanting properly. And what stops us chanting properly? Well, initially it's ignorance. We don't know what it is. We don't know what we should be doing. We don't know how we're supposed to be doing it. When Narada Muni saw the devotees, he was laughing. Prabhupada said he's laughing at the malechas trying to chant. So we're trying to chant. We're trying to cut cauliflowers, and we're trying to do so many things. And somebody said to Srila Prabhupada, one of his godbrothers, he said, Prabhupada, your disciples are not chanting Hare Krishna properly. They're not saying it properly. And Prabhupada said, yeah, I know, but Krishna knows who they mean. He knows who they're referring to. So we shouldn't become discouraged also, because when we realize that we're not so advanced as we thought that we were, or when we think that we're much further away from Krishna than we had initially thought, then don't become discouraged, because when you're thinking like that, Krishna is very close. When Krishna sees his devotees becoming humble, he becomes very close to the devotee. And we want to get close to Krishna. So when we become discouraged or overwhelmed, then we should say, oh, this is humility coming now, which is my friend. Humility is my friend. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, for Hari Bhajan, our only friends are humility and tolerance. So we see them as aids to us achieving the goal. Interesting, eh? Because you could mistake them as things which are going to obstruct you from achieving the goal. When you realize you're worthless and what you're doing isn't of a good standard, and you've got so much room for improvement, you would think, I need to shun those thoughts. I need to push them away because they're not good. I don't feel very happy and enlivened when I get those thoughts. No, embrace those thoughts. That's really good. That's humility coming, the precursor of humility, the dawning of humility. It may have been a long, long time since we last experienced humility, so we should embrace it. And it's a shame, isn't it, the so-called educational system, educato, Spanish educato, the word means well-behaved. So it's interesting, isn't it, that what we call education is actually ignorance, because it's making the person proud or not well-behaved, uncivilized, arrogant, insensitive. And in the Gita 13th chapter, text 8 to 12, it says, besides these, whatever there may be is ignorance. So these are all the symptoms of knowledge: humility, pridelessness, perception of the evil of birth and death, taking shelter of a spiritual master, freedom from the entanglement of wife, home, and etc. That's knowledge. And besides this, whatever there may be, even if you know the breeding cycle of the red spotted ant, it's ignorance, because it's making you ignore Krishna. It's so-called knowledge, but it's actually ignorance. It's taking you away from the real object of knowledge, the source of everything, Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Wow, I'll have to do class for another half an hour, because you've got half an hour's vegetables still to chop. Isn't that amazing? That you can go to school and be worse off than you were when you started. Because they took these kids that were 5 years old and they asked them to draw the landscape. So they drew the landscape. It had the sun in it, little hills and some flowers. What did the kids put on the sun and on the flowers? A little smiley face. Sun had a smiley face, and all the flowers had smiley faces. So what education will do, that innate sense of God consciousness that's there in the child, that there's a personality behind the sun, that there's a personality behind the flower, they will beat that out of the child. They will stay with their science and their chemicals. This is nonsense. Why are you drawing this silly thing? That is childish. Get educated. Get a life. We're going to teach you the real thing. And it's not. The kids were better off when they were 5 putting smiley faces in the sun than being 21, just ripping everybody off they can and getting as much money as they can and becoming nasty, greedy, selfish, self-obsessed individuals. They were better off 16 years ago when they were 5 years old. That's the educational system, I'm afraid. Turning people away from Krishna. Jai, and on that cheery note, I will finish. ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaura Premanandi. All of you Ki Jai, the sacred vegetable cutters Ki Jai.